All right, ladies and gentlemen, it feels so good to know that you guys are tuned in because as I'm dropping these videos, I see that people are coming in and commenting already. And let me tell y'all something. When you see stuff like that, it makes you feel good because it lets you know that the world is listening and the world is watching, okay? And it motivates you to want to tell your story even more. So it feels good that you guys are actually coming in the midst of me making these videos right now as you guys are watching them, okay? This is the next chapter. This is chapter 5. This is graduation, okay? When I graduated from high school, I started going into these nightclubs. Remember, I told you guys I was going into these nightclubs, okay? It was my senior year, and this is close towards the end. My mom grew a little frantic because she was like, okay, like, you know what I'm saying? You're coming home 3 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning. I never forget. She came into my room and she opened the door, and I'm glad she said this. I will say that. She came in and she said, I'ma tell your goddamn ass something. You gonna graduate. You gonna walk across that goddamn stage. I will never forget those words as long as I live. She said that. Upon graduation, okay, because this is when things start to take a turn, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, it's so funny because ever since I've been actually making these videos on this book, and I'm talking about it, there's been so many different interruptions. There's been so many different people hitting me up on, and I'm like, since when? Since when did you write me? Since when did you hit me up? Since when are all these people coming on different social media sites? It's a distraction by the devil because he don't want the truth to get out. But ladies and gentlemen, the devil is a lie. Ladies and gentlemen, put that in the comments. The devil is a lie because we're going to get it all out. Upon me graduating, I ended up graduating, but I was still in the house. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, that's how it happens. I didn't go straight to college, okay? I told my mom I didn't want to go to college. She tried to set me up with this job. It was a decent job. I would not lie. I would give it to her. She set me up with this job. Like I told you guys, my mom was the go-to person. She set me up with a decent job. I was a security officer. I was working for Publix. I was making it would have been a decent amount now that I look at it, because I was getting paid every week. But the problem was I was getting so caught up in the streets because once I graduated, I still was I started hanging around a family member, a specific cousin of mine. She was cool, but she had her demons and stuff that she was dealing with, and it was a little toxic. You know what I'm saying? But I still was involved with her. You know, we both were the same sign, so we had a lot of things in common. So we would hang around each other and we would hang out. I would go around her. You know, she was very street savvy. She was into the streets. That's where I got my street knowledge from, being around her. We would go out, we would party, we would club, and that's when I ran into my first narc. Okay, now this was the first narc that I ran into. It was a very toxic situation. This guy was very toxic. He pinpointed me from jump start. It's like he seen me in my cousin's car and he automatically knew I was an empath. Now, I didn't know nothing about no empaths, no narcissists, none of that shit. All I knew was that he was attractive and I was like, oh my gosh, like I like him. But he was so easy to get. See, ladies and gentlemen, we have to pay close attention to things that are easy to get, ladies and gentlemen. If it comes too easy, that's a red flag. Something ain't right. I ended up being around this guy. First, it started with him hanging out with me ever so often. Then it started with, and I'm not going to lie, I keep it real. I invited him into my parents' home when they weren't there, and I should not have done that. And then when they found out and came home and it was revealed, my little brother came home and caught us in my parents' house. I ended up leaving with him and living in the streets. Okay, he moved into one of his cousins' trailers. And I ended up living there with him. It was very dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. There were so many different things that could have happened to me while I was staying there. There was drug addicts that was coming in. His cousin sold drugs. There was a guard dog that was so creepy. It was like a Rottweiler, but it was nice to me, I guess, because it got acquainted with me being there. But there was drug addicts, and I never forget being around this toxic guy. I never forget there was a drug addict that came into this room. There was like a little small room that they would go in to do their drugs. And I never forget talking to them and venting with them about this person and telling them about this and that. And we argue a lot. And they were like, no, y'all shouldn't be arguing now. Don't let nobody put their hands on you. Like, even with them doing their drugs in the midst of me being in this place, ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you God will put people in your path, they were still telling me, giving me words of wisdom and advice, telling me, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to do, you need to do this, if it's not right, if it's no. And then I'll never forget being there for so long, because I'm gonna tell you, the cops could have came in and kicked the door in any time, and I could have went to prison for the rest of my life. But that was not what God's will was. I never forget, there was this guy that was on drugs real bad. He was a white guy, and it was Thanksgiving time. And he told me, he say, "What's up, man? What you doing here?" I say, I'm just here." And he say, "You ain't home with your family?" And I say, "No." He said, "Man, you should be home with your family." And I had just got in an argument with this person, the narcissist, that I had met or whatever. They would leave and then come back and leave. They were mobile. They had a car, but it's like they were keeping me like their prized possession. I would be stuck at this trailer all day, but then they would come back. "Hey, how you doing, babe? What's up?" And then leave and then come back. And it was just, it was crazy. It's like they were trying to keep me away from the rest of the world and all the good things that was in store for me. They probably knew, like, oh, he's this new gay guy. So if anybody else get a hold of him, or they find out that he exists, they're going to be all over him. I'm keeping him to myself. And that's exactly what they were. Very possessive, but very evil, very emotionally abusive, breaking me down, telling me things about me. I never forget one time we were there and they said something about, I started getting very insecure and I would be afraid to walk past them. And I never forget, they said something about my body and they say, "Yeah, that body bad as hell." They was like, "Yeah, you might have a nice face or whatever, but that body bad as hell." And they was like, "Ain't no nigga gonna want that. Ain't nobody gonna want that." And I felt so insecure. And then I'll never forget when they left, after I had a conversation with the person that was on drugs that told me I should be home. I never forget, they came back to the trailer and I told them, I said, "I want to go home." Ladies and gentlemen, if you could have seen the rage, I could see it in their eyes, but they weren't exhibiting on the outside of their body. It was like, "You want to go home?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to go home. Take me home now." And I was firm in what I said. And finally, I walked out and got into the car, and the whole ride back to the small city that I was in, because I was only in a smaller city that was close to this one. And I never forget, so as we're getting ready to approach, then they started trying to start an argument with me. But I didn't know that the cousin that I told you guys I was hanging around in the streets and stuff and got the street knowledge from, she had called me before. She was telling me, "Your parents are looking for you. They put up signs for you and everything." I'm like, "Signs?" And everything. And I never forget, as we're approaching Lakeland, this narcissistic person, they started trying to argue with me. And I said, "Let me out, let me out." And as I'm getting out, they tried to swing, ladies and gentlemen, like swing a punch. And when they swung a punch, you best to believe. Now, that's one thing about me. When it came down to defending myself, I'm going to defend myself. I swung back and rapped and got him. I hit him somewhere in the face, somewhere, and I ran to my grandfather's house. It wasn't far. All I had to do was run through like this little field, and I ran through this field and I got to my grandfather's house, and that's where I was at. And then the next day, that's when my parents showed up and this and that, and I stayed in my granddad's house for maybe another week. And then after that, I ended up going back home. Okay. Upon me going back home, ladies and gentlemen, because see, there's a lot of things that have happened in your lives as well. But you wonder, well, why did this happen? And why did that happen? And why did that situation occur? You don't realize that all the shit was relating to narcissism to begin with. You just didn't realize it. See, this is what I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. You don't realize it. As I moved back to my parents' house, I moved back into my bedroom. I would create my music. There would be certain things that just wasn't right in the house. I would just feel very weird there. Just certain things of jealousy. Like just certain things of, brothers acting like this, every so often my sister acting like this, and I don't mean my little sister, I'm talking about the oldest one. They doing this and doing, and I'm like, well, damn, what? I never forget I was creating music in my room, always staying in my room 24/7. And I never forget my little sister who always came into my room, who loved me dearly. She came into my room. She was on like 3 or 4. And she said, Pooh, she say, and she said my sister's name. And she said, because she would come out to my mom's house and stay there. Even though she lived with my grandparents, she would come out to my mom's house and stay the night and stuff like that. I never forget. She said that you can draw, but you can't sing. And I was like, wait, what? And she was like, quiet. And I say, no, tell me. You can tell brother anything. You can tell me anything. And she said that you can draw, but you can't sing. These were things that was going on in the house. The jealousy game. The what do you call it? The mind fuckery of it all. And you wondering like why this going on and why this going on. Well, why this person said this about me? Why this person said that about me? Why is my stepfather complaining about me eating oatmeal when he don't even eat it? And I'm the one that's putting fucking food in the house because I'm getting some food stamps. Yes, they had money to supply food in the house, but because I was able to get them, and I'm at a young age, why not? I live with my parents. Why not put food in the house? But ladies and gentlemen, this was things I would hear through the grapevine. There was a cousin that came to stay with me. He's deceased. God rest his soul. He's no longer here, but he's the one that told me that my stepfather was saying these things about me. He said, you eat up all the oatmeal. Called to confront him. Oh, I don't even know why he told you. I didn't say that. But saying he talked too much. Why are you talking about me, period? I'm a fucking child. Ladies and gentlemen, as I grew older, I was able to drive my parents' car. Okay? I'll never forget, I was driving, I had an old car my mom had got for me way back when we were at the daycare. And this car, it was just, it didn't last that long. But why did I have to get an old car, but my sister got a brand new car? I don't know. But I ended up getting this car. It was old or whatever. So I ended up starting to drive my parents' car. As that car broke down, whatever, I was driving my parents' car from time to time. Now, it started like this. My mom had opened up another business, okay? This time, they still have the house that my stepfather owns, okay? So the house that we were living in that before we moved to the daycare, my stepfather, they still had that house. So there was another business that was put into that house, okay? This business had nothing to do with kids at all. This business was dealing with the elderly. It was healthcare. And also there was a lot of vehicles that was involved. My parents went and purchased like 2 mega vans. And I was allowed to drive those vans from time to time. And I never forget driving the van, going to the nightclub. See, this is what I'm saying. This is how the gay life gets you all addicted into going and partying and doing all the crazy things. And I never forget I was driving the van. No. Before that happened, I was driving my parents. They had an SUV. I was driving that. And I would never forget getting into a car accident because there was my stepfather's nephew who had came down to live with us. And we were getting ready to go out to a nightclub. I was trying to tell him all the nightclubs that are out there, but these were straight nightclubs, okay? And he was like, oh, yeah, that'll be fun, whatever. The hurricane had came. He had a lot of money from the FEMA. He had got a FEMA check. And I told him I was going to introduce him to a city that was close to us, Tampa. So it was me, him, and another cousin of mine, which was like a good cousin. But he was related to me through the bloodline of my aunt who's married to my uncle right now. And he was her cousin, and he would always be around me, and he treated me like a big brother. He treated me like a little brother, and it was me, him, and them. And I wanted to take my car my old car. It had to be my old car. Yeah, I wanted to take my old car that my parent had bought for me. And we ended up, instead, my stepfather's nephew convinced me to take their old SUV, a Chevy Tahoe, to Tampa. And I took it there. And we stayed in this nightclub all night long. He was throwing money. There were strippers there. It was wild. Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you, it's a wild place. And I'll never forget, on the way home, I ended up falling asleep right around the corner from the house. And I ran into a pole. When I ran into this pole, the truck was total loss. I got into a lot of trouble. I ended up being kicked out of the house. Moved in with my grandfather. Then I was able to come back to the house after a few weeks. Then I never forget driving one of my mom's vans, and my little sister was in it. And I never forget, we were driving, we were headed home, and she was, like I say, she was like 3 or 4. And I had told her, I say, I'm going to put you... No, she was talking to me and laughing with me and stuff like that. And I told her, I say, but she wasn't sitting in the passenger seat. She was standing in the middle of the van, like where the radio was, closer to me. And as we're going under the bridge, headed from like literally 5-10 minutes from my parents' house, all of a sudden some guy has a seizure. They say he had a seizure or something. And he ran into us, and it was a total loss of that vehicle. The vehicle was total loss. The airbags was deployed. I panicked. I opened my door, got out. I heard my little sister crying because it didn't dawn on me that, oh shit, my little sister's in here. And she started crying, and she was like, it's hot, it's hot. And I grabbed her and got her out. God protected her, and the police came, and it was just, that was so devastating to me. Okay. After that happened, few months out, all of a sudden I'm driving my mom's van. I decided to sneak it to Orlando to to see a friend. One of the friends that I had met was a narcissist that was introduced to me by the person that introduced me into the gay lifestyle. I decided to meet them. And on my way back, it was raining. I could not see well. This is when I knew, this is when it was obvious that I needed glasses. I didn't have my glasses in. But I was still able to see the road. And a semi-truck, yes, a semi-truck, hit the van and total lost the vehicle. The van was total loss. A semi-truck, ladies and gentlemen. I'll never forget, there was a lady that was standing on the pavement crying. She thought I had died. I don't know what it was, but she was panicked. And I just looked down and I looked at my knee. I seen a little scrape gash on my knee. And I opened the van and got out, and she was just crying. And the guy got out, and he was trying to write all these things. I knew he was trying to make sure he had all his information straight, because he was at fault, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, he ran a red light. But he was trying to make sure that he covered himself and that I would look bad in this car accident, but it didn't happen like that. What happened was he ended up being at fault, and my parents ended up kicking me out for wrecking that vehicle. I ended up moving with my grandfather, but my parents came and got me sooner than they normally would all the other times that I lived with him, because there was money involved. They seen, oh shit, we could file a lawsuit. See what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? This is how it goes, okay? No, it was not my will to get into these car accidents. Yes, I was young, ladies and gentlemen, but I realize now that I spiritually could see everything. The devil was trying to kill me. Back then, he was trying to kill me just like this. You know why? He knew that I would grow up to be the person I am right now. He knew that I would be sitting in this chair and telling you guys my life story, and I would be enlightening you on demons that exist in this world today, which are narcissists. Okay? He didn't want this to happen. My parents came back and got me. I will never forget I was in high school going to therapies. Now, I said this was after graduation, so this had to be around the time there was high school. I was in high school. I remember being in high school because I remember getting out of school, going to these therapies. And that's when the lawsuit was, I got tired of doing it, and that's when they made a settlement, and there was money that came back. I ended up giving my mom a portion of her money. I gave her the money that it cost to replace the vehicle, but she wanted really all of it. And I ended up, which I should have gave her more. I'm not gonna lie, ladies and gentlemen. I keep it real. When a wrong is a wrong. I should have gave her more. But her intentions weren't right anyway, because the only reason why she was doing that was to draw all this money. So the fact that I didn't give it to her, I was young. She could have easily took it from me. But I think that it was just God. God was saying, nope, you're not, no, I'm not gonna allow it. Nope. But I ended up buying me a little car, and that little car it was like a $4,000 car. It was a Chevy Malibu. I never forget. And I was still living in my parents' house after that. This is when I knew that my mother was money hungry. Like, I mean, it kind of sort of, it was there then. I didn't know it up until like a few years ago now. But this is when I knew, like, damn, that's all she about is money. You see what I'm saying? When you get the time too. But I will tell you that this happened before I graduated. So after I graduated was everything that I told you guys happened after that. Like, you know, me meeting the wrong guy. Okay, hold on, wait. I'm trying to make sure this is right. I'm trying to wait. Okay. Yes. So the car incidents with the devil trying to kill me and all that stuff, that happened before I met the guy that I told you guys that I met, that was a narcissist, that I met through my cousin who was running the streets, who I was following. I met him after all of this, okay? So this is when it was like, you know, now I'm dealing with this da-da-da-da, blase, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So now I'm realizing that, okay, all I'm ever doing is just like hanging in the streets. After all this is said and done, I'm hanging in the streets. I'm around my cousin. I'm chilling here, chilling there. I never forget I got into an argument with this guy that I was friends with for a long, long time, that I met through the guy that introduced me to the gay lifestyle. And he was a narcissist. Not the one that introduced me, but the person that he introduced me to. And I never forget we got into this big argument. And this person I think they were upset because throughout my high school, when I used to hang around with them, I was always following them to the clubs, and we would go to the clubs and da-da-da. But as I grew this street mentality and this street knowledge, they got upset because they realized when they got out of prison, because they were so used to going to jail and getting out and stuff like that. And I was just like, whatever. Like, I don't get into trouble. Then when they hung around me after a year or two, then they realized, like, oh shit, he's a totally different person. They could manipulate me how they wanted to. So now he got all this street knowledge and da-da-da-da. Oh, hell no. They tried to make it seem like they were having an argument with me about something else, but it was literally about, they were upset. They were jealous, ladies and gentlemen. They were jealous that I was evolving into the person that I am today. And we got into this big argument. And I never forget, I had to fight the hell out of them. Like, I was running from them at first, like saying, I told them, give me a ride home. As they were giving me a ride home, they were driving off fast. So I said, just let me out. I'll walk. And as I'm getting out to walk, they run up and hit me, ladies and gentlemen. I was running from them, and they ran up and hit me. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but I had to defend myself. I turned around and swung like I ain't never swung before. And I ended up calling the police. The police was on their way. They came, and this person was still trying to come up to me with a group of people that they had just picked up in the car, and they were trying to jump. They were going to jump me, but the police hadn't made it to the scene. Went and arrested them, sent their ass to jail, and the charges were there for me to press, ladies and gentlemen, and I pressed them. And guess what I did, ladies and gentlemen? Because I'm a good person, loving and caring, I dropped the charges. That's right, dropped the charges. Now, this person was a narcissist. And I'll never forget my mom convincing me after she heard about the story, and the police officers gave me a ride home, telling me, I told her the whole story. She tells me, I wouldn't press charges. I win, and drove me all the way up to the courthouse, and I dropped the charges, thinking I was doing something good. Ladies and gentlemen, I should have let that shit ride out, but I dropped them. And they got off. So all of these things were occurring while I was in the house with my parents, right when I was in high school, dealing with the car accidents, to the point where I graduated dealing with the person that I met on the streets, hanging out with my cousin that was a narc, okay? So I met this narc friend through the person that introduced me to the gay lifestyle that I met in high school. And then I met the first, then I met another narc through my cousin when I was hanging out with her in the streets after high school, and we coincidentally stumbled upon this person. Okay? So, right. So, the car accidents and stuff, that happened when I was in high school. And then after high school, that's when I was hanging in the streets with my cousin, and that's when my cousin introduced me to this person that she didn't even know, and they were a narc. So I had met a narc in high school before I graduated, around the car accident time, and then I had met a narc when I graduated, when I was hanging around my cousins, out of the blue, hanging on the streets. This guy. Okay. So after all this was said and done, I noticed that, okay, bam, now all of a sudden, my older sister, she's hanging out a lot. She's in a relationship with this guy. But it's not going well. This person's providing everything financially, but emotionally not there. See, this is what stems from when you have parents that are narcissists, ladies and gentlemen. All this shit be coming down the line. She didn't even know what she was dealing with. But anyways, this person was not emotionally there. So she ended up being, she would be, whatever, upset. But I came to bring that out of her because then, she hadn't had a child by this person. And I was always being there for my sister. And just like I was for my little sister who was born. And that will become my niece, who I love to this day. We still are in contact with each other. And she probably about like the only one that I keep in contact with. But I never forget going to my sister's house, sitting down with her, having talks and stuff. But I would hang out with my sister because the street knowledge that I had was really, really being in the streets. And my sister had a little street knowledge, but she was more so going to work, doing what she had to do, come home. She wanted to live in a nice, place. That's the way my parents raised me. At least like we were living nice. I wasn't raised in the hood or in the ghetto. So she was trying to make it work with this person who was not there like that for her emotionally. But when it came down to the money was there. So next thing you know, I would hang out with my sister all the time, and she would cover me. She had the money. She would go into stores, buy expensive outfits, and she would cover me to go into every nightclub with her. It's like I literally was like her best friend. Of course, I'm her brother, but it was like I was like her go-to person. We hung out, we chilled, we drunk, we talked, you know what I'm saying? And then I realized that, okay, I'm hanging out with her, but I don't have nothing going for myself. I don't have no job. There's nothing going for me. Like, I got to do something about this. I had already applied for Job Corps a few months ago or a year ago, but I never went when the tickets were sent. But this time I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just go to Job Corps. I'm at the age of like 23 going into 24, and the deadline is after 24, you cannot go into Job Corps. So I said, it's now or never. And I went ahead and I applied at our local, it's a place where you can go get hired and they help you with jobs and stuff like that. And I applied, and the recruiter said, okay, I'm going to send the tickets to you. And I was to go to Simpsonville, Kentucky. And I told my sister when I came back, she was hanging out at my mom's house, and I told her I was going to go, and she said, no, you're not. And I told her, I said, yes, I am. I'm leaving. I got to do something with my life. And just to show us I'm black, when them tickets came in, guess who was gone? I had done told my cousin that I was hanging out with in the streets, gotta go. I had told my sister I was leaving. She didn't believe me, and I ended up leaving. They dropped me off to the airport, and I left. And that's when I think everybody became a believer, like, oh shit, he really follows what he says he's going to do. And ladies and gentlemen, now that you guys have kept up with me, we're going to go ahead and cross out chapter 5 because we're going into chapter 6, Job Corps. And this is where I met my very, 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 really, 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 the first narcissist that I was to encounter, that was going to shape my whole entire world, that was going to enlighten me on my spiritual gifts, that I was going to actually see who almost my whole entire family really was. And this is the person that I talk about in a lot of videos to this day. After this person, I encountered a second narc for a year and a half. They tried to cause me to lose everything. But after it was all said and done, I wasn't worried about them because I ended up getting everything back. We're not focused on them, okay? I got bigger fish to fry, which is this one that I'm getting ready to tell you about in chapter 6. That still is around. Not around me, miles away, but still have involvement with my family. I'll see you guys in this chapter. I'll see you guys in chapter 6. Bye-bye.